Thank you. Welcome. Yeah, so providing real value, that's nice. Something I guess we all want. But in order to do that, we have to eliminate all the waste in or as much waste as possible in our development processes. Yeah, you can find the slides here as well. If you want to scan the code or go to the URL, then you can follow along with the slides. The link will also be in the final slide, so don't worry, it can be fetched later. Yeah, so let's go. What is waste in a process? Like we always start by explaining our titles in these kinds of talks. Everybody creates this nice title and then we explain about it. So waste in a process, we are producing software with some kind of value for our customers. Somebody wants to pay for it, yet the waste in our processes, that's something that we don't want to pay for, right? So there's always this part that's, well, not very valuable. And we want to eliminate. How to eliminate? Of course, the spoiler slide. Here is everything you need to know. We should value our team performance over our individual performances, and we should aim to steadily deliver value. Okay, so what does this tell us? Not much. So of course, I have to explain what's going on with that. So in two parts. First part is team performance over personal performance. And there used to be this mythical concept of the 10 times programmer. Have you heard of that? Yeah, that's nice. There has been some misunderstanding what it really is, but I think most of us understand the concept to mean like there are programmers and they are very fast at writing the code, right? They don't need to write any tests because it's like 100% correct. And they are constantly in the zone, like really typing ahead, and they are turning coffee into to code, right? And then, yeah, maybe a bit old-fashioned code, but anyway. Then but the downside is, or if that was not already enough downsides, is that they don't really work as a team member. So they don't reply to any emails or messages. They actually keep coding during the meetings. And they are very quick to block the merge requests, right? So they always have this comment, it's not good, or just block anyway, and you have to go talk to them. Yet they are unavailable. So it looks efficient. They are typing, they are clicking all day, but yeah, the focus is only on their personal performance. Do not disturb them. They are working hard, you know. And everybody is around them like, okay, how can I become more efficient at this programming as well? And yeah, this is what you actually see. And I think this is a very common image in offices where programmers work. It's just like, okay, coding behind the screen. And of course, we have big screens and all kinds of fancy keyboards. But it doesn't really change a lot. We are looking at, well, what I think is waste. Yeah, where is the waste in the process here? It looks very efficient, very performing. Yeah, we need to zoom in a bit. What are they doing there? And reflect on what's their development process. So how to spot waste, and this is the first suggestion. When you are working on anything, you can reflect on what you're doing and think, well, am I still working towards the goal? Or have I sidetracked into some other interesting topic that I also want to look into, some piece of code that I also want to improve? Yeah, does this really contribute to the goal I had in mind? Is the way I am working towards the goal still the right one? Is my strategy still right? Or do I have to change and try something else that works better? Of course, if you are working alone, you are in the zone, and in the zone, no reflection happens, unfortunately, or just a little bit. So one piece of advice there is to use a timer to wake you up. If you're working, programming, make sure to check with yourself every 20 minutes or so, am I still on track? Am I doing the right thing, the thing that is most valuable at this moment? Yeah, sounds like a quick suggestion, an easy one, but yeah, again, it takes a lot of discipline to use a rule like this. Just 20 minutes and then have a mini retrospective with yourself. There's more. There's more about our working processes, like we have to reflect some more. Which parts are very time-consuming? Which parts are repetitive? We have to click there, then run this process, then copy this file. Error-prone steps. Like it's very easy to make mistakes there. Are there anything that any parts of our process that we only know about and our colleagues don't know anything about? Like any magic parts? If the colleague is looking at your screen, they're like, what are you doing? I've never seen this before. So yeah, magic. But again, this is something that you, as a programmer, don't realize very often. Like, you are doing it because you know it, and it's the fastest way. So, yeah, how do I know if I'm doing something that's time-consuming, error-prone, has magic aspects to it? Well, that's where your colleagues come in. So you really have to work together, working on the task, and reflect on it. How much pain am I currently taking when I'm doing these steps? When you work together, it's very quick. You're very quick to realize this. So the simple trick is to work with someone and then let them do this painful task, which requires running a command, copying something, changing a file, etc. And then see what happens. It sounds a bit like sadistic, but it's actually a good thing. It's called MOB, or pair programming. You could say it's programming in groups. But, you know, that sounds horribly inefficient. Why are you proposing this? If we are working alone, it already takes so much time. So if we are working together, it's going to take more time. Well, actually, it's interesting because the opposite effect happens. So pair programming is something from extreme programming. It's an extreme practice, although I think everybody should do it, right? But you can look it up in this book, Extreme Programming Explained. Then the evolved version, you could say, is mob programming. So that's like software teaming. You work in a group with more people, not just two, and together you're making the software. Okay, that's interesting. But I mean, it would be very inefficient if you would really duplicate the work in a way. If you would everybody would write a bit of code and then you vote for the code that wins or something. No, instead we have very specific roles that we are using in pair programming as well as mob programming. We are not programming just together, but there's one person behind the computer who is the driver. They have access to the keyboard and to the mouse. They can actually do the steps in the software. And then there is one or more navigators who are providing instructions to the driver. They say, do this, go there, open this file. Oh, we have to look this up. Or they, in fact, are looking things up on their computer and then giving instructions. So, just a quick question. Who is doing pair programming like this? Yeah, okay, very nice, very nice. Yeah, so you already know the advantage. But if you start doing this, then at first it will be very frustrating, right? Because, well, you have to explain everything. And normally you would go to the keyboard, go to the mouse and click on something and yeah, be done. And you know the fastest way it can be done. So yeah, it feels like very slow, very hard to just allow the other person to do it, who is definitely at first going to be much slower. But then as soon as you start explaining things, they will learn how to do it as well. And they very soon will catch up on all your secret processes and the magic steps and the things that only you know. So everybody in this team will become faster in doing the same task. In fact, everybody will be able to do this same task. So that's very useful. So the frustration is good. It just takes some patience and wait for it to become better. Another very useful thing is that knowledge sharing happens. So it's not just about the tools and how to become more efficient at that, but it's also about the domain, the business that you're working in, like learning how does this business work, what are the specific rules, what are the concepts. When you're working in a group, there's discussions and the knowledge sharing happens automatically. So that's very useful. And also, you will be able to perform a lot faster. You work faster and better together. Because if you're working alone, you have to make some decision about certain aspects, like you have a question or you have a fork in the road. You can choose two options, which one is the better. If you're alone, you have to ask for somebody to join, or you have to send an email or a message and wait for the reply, right? But now you have the people in the room, and together you can make a more informed decision. It's probably a better decision, and you will feel more safe about it because you have made it as a group, not just on your own. Also, the group will sort of force you to do a better job. Like normally, if you're working alone, you will allow yourself a few, well, shortcuts, maybe some dirty hacks. But if people are watching, then you're going to do a better job, hopefully. So in summary, I think mob and pair programming are really a way to reduce the waste in your process. It will make it clear what time-consuming things you are doing, where to improve this process. It will help you transfer knowledge. In fact, it forces you to transfer the knowledge so that everybody on the team can pick up all the tasks, right? And then you can parallelize the work. So that's very useful. It will speed up the delivery because you are creating better software more quickly in this process. So there's no waiting for a code review and then going back and making some more changes and incorporating some more knowledge, because everything is already available in this same room. So the question is, are you going to try it? Yes, of course, yeah. Say yes. Yeah. Okay, so that's already quite useful, I think. But yeah, there are other ways to steadily deliver value. And that's one thing that is, it has several parts. Because even if you are working in a mob, in a group, you can still work on the wrong thing or work on the thing in the wrong way. So yeah, how to improve that? So first of all, delivering and value are nice words, but where does this come from? Well, we, as I mentioned in the beginning, we create software which has some value for somebody, hopefully more people than just one. But when we produce the value, we go through a number of stages. So maybe we first have some issue created, right? That's just the way things start. Then we write a bit of code, and we have an automated QA, so a pipeline that gives us some insight into, well, is the code correct? Then some person on the team reviews the code. And finally, we release the code. In some way, we deploy it to a server, and finally, it's available. And the value is sort of released. So what people want from it is now available. We have to look at the value stream and consider, where is the value stuck? And so if you think about your job, probably as a programmer, you are creating the value, but somehow it's not ending up with the user. It's relatable? Yeah, sometimes. So hopefully, of course, you are in a good shape with your team, but there's always a way to improve. So value can be stuck even in a backlog. There may be issues created with very good ideas, but then, yeah, nobody picks it up because maybe you don't have enough programmers who can work on it. Sometimes value is converted into, or like an idea is converted into code, which potentially has a lot of value, but it's in some kind of a long-living branch, right? It sits there, well, and at some point it's too old to even merge. There has been a lot of changes in main, and now you cannot go back. So yeah, the value is stuck. And even if it can still be released, well, somebody has to pick up the work on the branch and do what is needed to finish it. In some cases, it's in the review stage. So there is a merge request, everything is green, it looks good, but yeah, who pushes even the button to merge, right? Sometimes this happens. What happens in the deploy stage? Do we have a very slow deploy process? Do we know if it's safe to deploy? Yeah, all of these issues could happen. And this happens, we see somebody working at the computer, they are still typing, and well, we don't see how the value gets stuck. Actually, this is the one thing that I really like about Scrum. It aims to make the work, the flow of work visible. So, yeah, if you're looking at somebody working behind the computer, you don't know what they are working on. Is it in progress? Do we need some work to finish it, to release it? Here, with some kind of a project management tool, we can see what is there and what needs to be done to make it released. So one of the requirements is that all of the work is actually on the board. I often make this mistake myself with teams. I'm giving them a lot of work that does not end up on the board, and so they have less time to work on the actual issues. So, okay, good thing to keep in mind. Put the work on the board and you can see it moving. Also, you don't need Scrum. Any board will be useful, so just have like, I'm going to pick this up. It's being picked up right now and we're almost done. Another question here is, well, is the flow of work the same as the flow of value? You know, a bit of a philosophical discussion maybe, but imagine that we can create issues on the board that don't represent any value. So it's just like we want to do stuff, work on stuff, but nobody's really waiting for it. This explains why it sometimes feels a bit sad to work on a certain issue. I don't know if you can relate to that, but you want to know why you are making it, for what purpose, on the side of the client. Another thing I like about Scrum, by the way, is the retrospectives, which are built into the process. Something I don't like is that it's only after 2 or 3 weeks, or I don't know how long your sprint is, but yeah, it's too late, right? We need to do it every day, multiple times a day, to reflect and how to improve. Think about it. But enough bashing of Scrum. Let's get back to reflecting on the flow of work, right? So, value delivery, and if you look at the way you work, the team works, is constrained by a number of things. So, as an example, you may have this task on the board that takes a very long time. It's a very big task. It is not releasable. Yeah. It takes actually multiple sprints to release. Another constraint is the speed of the automated QA process. So how long does it take to learn about is my work correct? And finally, how many defects escape the QA process? So, not finally, there's one more point. As an example, we may prioritize creating new issues or picking up new issues over finishing existing issues. So, right, we want to be like the hero who works on new stuff, but, well, we don't want to really review and bother making it to the production server. And so on. So this is really useful stuff for the retro, like, again, the retrospective that we have. We should look at how does value get stuck into our stream. And there should be things to consider, like, well, how can we improve? And I like to use this kind of slider metaphor. We have to push the lever to the right side and say, well, we want to make sure that most of the defects are caught by the build pipeline. We don't want to hear afterwards if something was wrong, because then we are already working on something else. So it takes a lot of time to get back into this work. So we want to make sure that when the pipeline runs, it's almost always a green pipeline. We may also want to look to get rid of the review process. We want to make sure that everything is good, according to team standards. And we can do this by working together, maybe always working together. So, and there are other things that we can do to continuously push towards, like, releasing value more often, quicker from idea, from inception to release. What I find interesting about projects and how they are structuring the work and the value streams is that in many cases, we are introducing accidentally more constraints than we need. So if we have some idea on how to improve the value for our customers, we need to make sure that we can actually work fast without limitations. So one of the rules that we may have in the team is every commit needs to reference an issue. Well, this feels like, okay, yeah, it could make sense if we talk about it, but what if we want to make a related change? We want to improve part of the code. Then we don't really have an issue for that. So do we first create an issue? But now we get to the overhead of going to Jira, I don't know how you pronounce it, and we have to create a task there, right? And then we do some stuff there. We have to fill out all the details, and we have to estimate. Well, but in order to estimate, we need to talk with a few people. What do you think is going to be needed in terms of complexity? And then we get into the discussion about story points. Is it complexity or time or something both, something mixed? And then, we realize that everybody should be able to pick up an issue. It could be a team rule. So we have to describe it in such a way that everybody understands what's going on. And then also we realize that, we can create the issue, but we may not add it to the sprint because then we have to rediscuss and replan everything. The sprint cannot be opened, So we have committed and now we want to do more work. Well, okay. So when we are finally doing it in the next sprint, weeks later, then we are finishing and, okay, we want to make a merge request and we need 2 people to approve. Okay, but it's holiday season and, okay. Well, so all of the overhead and all of the stuff that's going on, all of the rules are actually constraints. So they are reducing the speed from like when you first think of the issue to when it's being released and when the value is exposed to the actual people. I sound really frustrated, although I like to smile when I say these things. But yeah, this is indeed the case. I think many project management rules, or like how to deal with projects in software, are really limiting how fast you can go and actually deliver value to your customers. So yeah, I'm always looking for ways to make it happen. A nice example, and I'm sure you've heard of this, is when the project is in a very bad shape, and you start refactoring. You need to do something now, or at least years ago, but now, okay, time is finally there. And we started refactoring the project, change the architecture, do everything better this time. But then we have this branch that cannot actually be merged. It's almost done, but we keep saying this for a year or so, right? Do you have this experience? Yeah. Okay, that's nice. Yeah. So we realize that there is waste in this approach of refactoring, right? The value that is inside this branch, it may not be released. So we are not at all sure that the value is going to end up with the customer or any other stakeholder. Value, in fact, is no longer evident because, well, if it would be very valuable, why didn't we already merge it, right? It feels like, are we doing the right thing here? And actually, this is the big problem. Nobody wants to pay for any such refactoring project. So it's really the nightmare for any project manager or a product owner who needs to decide on this. Like, is it important? And now developers have been working on it for a long time. So there's sunk costs, and, well, the sunk cost fallacy lets us believe that we have to finish it because, well, otherwise we don't have anything at all, so no value. Yeah, and so we keep going. I say no, don't do it. Just start over and find a better way, right? To make sure that everything you do is releasable right away. Small changes, releasable changes. But the big question is, how can we split the big refactoring task into small, immediately releasable subtasks? And well, of course, we can spend a lot of time analyzing. I mean, this I've seen from up close as well. Teams just for a very long time analyzing how to do the big refactoring, but not really doing it. I don't know, out of fear it's not successful, or maybe you can never be sure about the analysis phase. And so we have to accept that, or at least that's my opinion, we have to accept that we don't know this in advance, what needs to be done. I mean, we need to improve, we need to change the structure, but how exactly, we don't yet know. So we have to find it out and, well, learn while we are doing it. And then, make sure that we work together as well in the groups so that everybody knows what we are doing. And we're not like in stealth mode working on this refactoring project. So for this very useful thing, we have the Mikado method. So I can recommend reading the book. It's a small book, and it's very insightful on like how to do these refactoring projects. So first you define your goal. You may call it the Mikado goal if you like, but anyway, it's the big goal that you want to achieve. And then you do the most naive thing to reach that goal. You don't think of what needs to come first. You just go straight towards the goal. And of course that doesn't work. It's a big goal, it's a risky one. So you realize we need to do something else first. Now this something else becomes your new goal and you try again. Okay? But very important is you start with a clean slate. You don't just continue working in your big branch. You don't commit anything, in fact, and you start with the first thing that does work. So as an example, you can have an old project where you want to migrate to using Symfony, for instance, and then, well, you would install Symfony, I don't know, do lots of stuff there, create a front controller, etc. And then you realize, yeah, it's not going to work because our PHP version is not up to date. Okay. So, yeah, then there you go. Install PHP, right? And, oh, it doesn't work because some dependencies are not yet compatible, or you have to switch packages. I don't know, whatever could be done. But you still, well, don't commit anything because you realize, yeah, this is leaving our project in a broken state. So we don't keep pushing, but we realize that, okay, we first have to update this dependency. And that's the first thing we can do. And we can actually commit that and merge that because it also works with the old PHP version. And then we finally can move up to the next step in this whole process. We know that after updating, we can also install the new version. And then finally, we are ready to install Symfony, use it. But then we realize our controllers, they don't use HTTP Foundation classes, right? So we have to start using them. So instead of installing the full Symfony framework, we may start by installing Symfony HTTP Foundation. And that's really a nice way to get started using Symfony. In this case, it works. There may be other cases where it's really hard to do something like this. But at least it's very important to not commit anything until you have something that actually works and is an improvement for the project as it is. So can be merged and will already be improving the project. So traditionally, I would say we would refine this project. We would think about all the sub-issues that we need. We create them, work on the issues in sort of an epic branch, if you like. But the project is broken until the very last commit. Like, we are only done if we have done everything. And that's where these branches end up dying, in a sense. Because, yeah, how do you know if you're really done, if you feel ready to merge? So the long-living branch becomes really hard to reintegrate. And we have merge conflicts, and we are just generally scared. Compare this to the Mikado approach, where we just do the thing, and if it doesn't work, we write down what we should do instead and don't commit anything. So we work on the prerequisites. And I mean, this is just a very short time to talk about this method, and you should definitely look more into it. But the true power is, instead of continuing to pick up the next prerequisite in this same branch, you just start over. You say revert everything, and there you go. So you draw or write down what you are supposed to be doing first, and you revert the changes, and then you do what you need to do first, right? I don't know. To me, it's very logical, but still, I don't think many people use this approach, and it's just very useful if you have this big refactoring goal, and you want to actually reach it. So big advantages here. There will be no or fewer integration issues. In the end, like the step that actually uses the new framework, it's just a very small commit. There are just a few lines that change something. Everything else is already prepared. So it's a very low-risk thing to do. Every change along the way, like updating dependencies or updating PHP versions, restructuring things like making the autoload stuff work better, every change is valuable on its own and is ready to be merged because it keeps the project in a working state. And so even if you are not reaching the goal, you are actually working towards the goal. And you know that every step helps you get closer to the goal because you found out the step like in an empirical way. So you just tried something and you learned about the actual requirement to reach the goal. This is really different from the way where you first refine all the issues and think of everything that could potentially be needed to reach the goal. Because traditionally, I think many issues will not really contribute towards reaching the goal. There could be an issue like, first we have to clean up some code before we can use Symfony. I know that sounds like a, well, reasonable thing, but it's not. We don't need to clean up anything in order to use the framework. And that's something we learn as part of the Mikado method. In my experience, many times the goal is a lot closer than you thought, because you are learning, well, it's quite okay. We can do it. We don't have to upgrade anything. We don't have to improve all these things. Yeah, we can already use Symfony if we like, no problem. And I'm using Symfony just as an example, not as like that everybody should use Symfony. Okay, so Mikado works really well and it's like the project manager's friend in this sense, because we are prepared to stop our refactoring project at any time. We can keep working, and if somebody comes in and says, stop, you should work on something else because, well, the refactoring is not the most valuable thing we can do right now, then yeah, you can cancel and no value is lost. So that's very important. Make sure that no value is lost. Every time you make a change, it should be better for the project as a whole, and it should be merged right away. No long-living branches there. Okay, so for refactoring, that's the Mikado method. That's not something you should use. But for feature development, it would be vertical slicing. Sounds very interesting. What is this? What is this? So first, horizontal slicing. I think this is what most projects use. We have layers of like technology. So we have some database stuff, some entities around it. We have controllers and services. We have templates, maybe HTML pages. And these are horizontal slices, like by layer. And some projects will start, like if we implement a new feature, they will start by creating the entities, right? And that's the first issue. And the second issue is create controllers. And the third issue is create pages. Okay? So signs of horizontal slicing is when there's dead code. So entities that are not being used or controllers that don't do anything yet or in fact have broken code. Issues that are only for creating things in a particular technology layer. And my favorite example is HTML pages with buttons that don't do anything. It's like, okay, yeah, we will wire it up with a controller or anything. But yeah, this already hints at, well, there may be a better way to do things. And that's vertical slicing. So if we have the layers and we have some functionality in mind that we want to develop, then we create vertical slices through all of those layers. So we make sure that everything is usable, but maybe we first start with a simple version of the feature. And then we iterate and start with the more advanced version. We add some buttons, we add some fields, and it becomes more useful. So signs of vertical slicing are the client who says, well, we already have what we need now. We can stop at this iteration. We are happy. We thought we would also need iteration 3 and 4, but yeah, I don't know, this is great. The other signal would be a developer saying, like, just one day into the sprint, okay, you can already click, we have a demo page. Nothing, like not everything is there yet, but what you see actually works. So you could say it's like a truly agile way of working, because you can always decide to go in a different direction. You can also say, stop the funding for this feature, because it's done, it's great. We don't need all the details. So you can try and work with this in your team. Alistair Coburn has created a nice workshop format for this, the Elephant Carpaccio workshop. It's not elephant with PHP in it, but it can be done with PHP developers. Also, if you're a vegetarian like myself, then you can think about watermelon carpaccio or something. It exists, right? So yeah, download the slides and go to this link if you like, or Google if you like. Okay. I think all of these ideas match up very well with the concept of continuous delivery. Maybe you saw it coming. It's a really nice book with like really scientific evidence. Well, scientific, I mean, there has been some research on this, and it's like you can defend your ideas using this book if you like. So my conclusion from reading this was that focusing on continuous delivery is really the best way to increase all aspects of IT performance. It's a very surprising thing. So if you make sure that everything you do is very quickly releasable to the public, to the audience, users, clients, customers, whatever, that's the sure way to improve every part of your process. Well, I mean, it's like indirectly, because you have to worry about, well, what I write, the code I write, is it correct? Can I trust it to be released right away? But yeah, it's an interesting idea. So with this comes a set of sliders, and there will be many more, and you can think of any of these things for your own project. So we could say that all defects have to be caught by the build pipeline. Otherwise, we would accidentally delete or release defects to the deployment server or to the production server. Every commit should be automatically released. There should not be like a step in between, so that, well, the value that we create today is right away released to the people. So really nice ideas, I would say, and sliders are ways to push your team and to say, well, today we are thinking about how to get the slider a bit more towards the right. Or to the right, yeah. So, yeah, I would say many projects suffer from discontinuous delivery. Things like do not merge in merge request titles, It's like, okay, but it's a merge request, so you're requesting merge, but don't want to merge it. There must be something going on that prevents this from merging. And this usually is a sign that the way it's implemented in the code, does not fit well with the rest of the code. So it's pretty much not working well with continuous integration. Watch out, I'm deploying, right? Okay, it should not be a personal thing to decide when you're going to deploy. It should happen when everything is green. Some features may be in the done column, and we are like, okay, nobody can use it. Why is that? Something that you can probably relate to. Things that have to be reviewed or tested manually, and well, everything is there, but it's not available for any user. Using Git flow is another nice example where we have a release branch. We are piling up things behind a release. Yeah, okay. But I mean, I don't want to offend anyone. I know a lot of this stuff happens, but it's nice to try and get rid of these practices so that you can release everything you make. So I would say, at first this said, get rid of anything that keeps your code from being released, but that's not true either, because then we would use FTP and just change the file on the server directly. The point is that we want to safely get rid of anything that keeps your code from being deployed or released. So that would be a thing to look for in your teams. How to become, that's the summary, how to become the 10 times team, I would say. It's not focusing on personal performance and becoming that very undisturbed programmer who does everything on their own, but working together in mobs or pairs and continuously look for ways to reduce the waste in your development process. You can use the Mikado method for refactoring, do much safer refactorings that can be continuously merged and released. No problem, no risk there, or just low risk. Use vertical slicing for developing your features. And in general, just aim for continuous delivery. But there's, of course, much more to this that does not fit into this talk. We only have 2 or 3 minutes. So make sure that the value flows steadily from your system, and which is also your team. That's it. I have a link for feedback. Yeah, it's there. A link for the slides. And a question for you to think about during the break. What prevents you from continuously delivering value, right? And maybe you are here with team members and you can share ideas if you like. I don't think, there could be maybe 1 question, 2 questions. Okay, yeah. Thank you.
Thanks, Matthias. That was an awesome talk. Regarding continuous, do you mean that you don't have any staging platform, for example, that can be reviewed with QA, with people that is checking that?
So very good point. I'm not saying everything you make should end up like being active on a production server and being ready to be used by the users. Normally, and there are different techniques for that, you would put it behind, say, a feature flag, right? That's like the technical solution for that problem, where only a few people can use it. But what I do mean is that all the things you make should be mergeable directly to main, and everything should be fine, no problem.
Thank you very much. I was curious to know if you have some feedback about doing some mob programming, but when working remotely through, Google Meet, whatever the tool. But I feel that it's not the same. So do you have some experience to share, maybe to improve the experience?
I do have remote mob experience. It's more, you will be quickly tired, as with any remote meeting. But in general, I think it's very important that everybody stays involved. So, and this is mostly something for you to do if you're not the driver or the main navigator at this moment. You need to really browse in the code and think of good ways to contribute. Maybe look things up, and also announce that you're going to do that. Because otherwise it's like you're drifting, to the side, and it's like, okay, I don't care that much anymore. But I think if that is a recurring issue, then pairing may be more useful. So you are together yeah, and you have to communicate, so that's maybe not the problem.
Thank you for the talk. What do you think about measuring performance with something like DORA metrics? Do you know DORA metrics develops like a lead time for change? No, okay.
Yeah, no, I have never really measured performance in any way. So for me, it's more like the quality of work. So if we are noticing that things are becoming better and we enjoy the work more, then that's important. But I am also not like anybody funding a team or saying like you should improve performance because we have to reduce costs or something. For those people, it might be more important than for me. But I'm usually hired for like improving the quality of work, and these are sure ways to do that. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Matthias.
Thank you.